Hi everyone, Melanie here. Welcome back to the channel. I had someone recently email me asking for me to talk more about quiet borderlines and for any tips or advice if you are dating or you're married to someone who is a quiet borderline type, how to help them come to terms with anger and assertiveness versus aggressiveness, about things like that. Hopefully this video can be of help. If you have any questions, you got comments, please do email me. I'd love to hear your feedback. My email address is in the video description. I've made a video talking more about quiet BPD types. So I recommend if you haven't watched that video, pause and watch that video first. A quick recap. Why someone is called the quiet BPD type is because they are not displaying outbursts of anger that is often typical with people who have BPD, which just highlights just how nuanced personality disorders are. There are so many individual differences amongst people who have BPD. Yet there seems to be a common thing with people who are the quiet borderline types. They find it very difficult to handle anger, your anger and their anger and anyone else's anger. And there is trauma, shock, PTSD that is associated around early childhood figures who were angry. Think about it. If you have a temperament that is quite sensitive, and when you have a parent who is angry and shouting a lot, it can be very shocking, and as a result, perhaps the child just wants to hide, just wants to avoid it completely. Quiet borderline types generally aren't good with anger in general, and you will often find them in groups which are quite passive or where passivity is encouraged. No negative vibes here, only peace and smiles and happiness. So, like new age spiritual groups or multi-level marketing as well. There's a lot of toxic positivity that occurs in these groups. If you'd like to find out more about this, do check out the new channel that myself and Casey has started, where I talk about new age narcissism. So go check out that channel and those videos. I'll talk more about that there. It's not really surprising that you would find quiet borderline types in these kind of passive communities, because they can avoid anger. Anger is not allowed, so they can be themselves and feel free, and it's a safe environment for them. The problem is that it's unrealistic to live in a world where there's never any anger. So why is it quiet? Well, it's because generally these people are quite passive people, and their journey in life often is to become more assertive and speaking their needs, but they've grown up seeing that being assertive is a bad thing. Speaking your mind and asserting your needs was risky for the child. Often the child grew up with a parental figure, or both parents, who were quite controlling and dominating, highly narcissistic maybe. Or maybe they had parents who they themselves did not know how to handle anger. Perhaps they had parents who were quite controlling and abusive, and so they grew up thinking anger bad. And so now these people have children and they can't handle the child's anger because they don't know how to handle their own anger. Their response perhaps is denial, stick their head in the sand a bit. And the thing is, this does damage for the child as well, not just the parent who is too much with the discipline and controlling and anger, but also the parent who runs away from any sort of challenging situation, from the child, from the environment. And so the child in this situation doesn't know how to be assertive. The child doesn't know how to handle anger. And perhaps the child learns that when I'm angry, I get a response that means I'm out of relationship with my family. And this is it. As children, we want to be included in the pack, and we are watching all the other people in our pack, little baby monkeys watching the adult monkeys, thinking this is how I need to be a monkey in life. This is what I do. This is what I need to do to navigate the world and stay safe. As humans, we are just like monkeys in this respect, are we not? We need our parents, our caregivers, our community to teach us the ways of being human. You cannot just live on our own and just expect to grow up knowing how to be human. We rely on our parents to teach us how to handle our emotions and how to work with them. And the thing is that for a lot of families, for whatever reason, children grow up thinking that anger is bad. So whether that's a parent who is highly narcissistic and sees the child standing up for him or herself, and they see that as a threat. The child is no longer being the complacent, submissive, narcissistic resource. Instead, the child is speaking its mind. How dare he, how dare her? So the parent will shame the child. No, know your place. So the child is obviously is angry, but doesn't want to be out of relationship with the family. And that's the thing, we want to be included in the pack. Being rejected is a fate worse than death. And we feel this, we really feel this when we're kids, but we seem to forget this sometimes when we get older, just how painful it is to be rejected. And often it is breaking up with someone who you are so close with, and then they're just suddenly you're ripped apart from them, which often happens when dating someone with a personality disorder. And it can remind us of this pain from when we're younger that we haven't really felt or really acknowledged, but now with heartbreak, it's a pain that we experience when we're younger, and that is being rejected from the person you love, from the family, the shock, the pain, the horror of being on your own and being out of the pack. This is very much a fundamental fear that everyone experiences, and this is very much heightened with people who have BPD. They're very much driven by a fear of abandonment. So if a child learns to not be angry so that they aren't humiliated or rejected or scorned by the parent, the kid thinks, I can't speak my mind because it's going to create an environment for me which is too much to bear. And therefore the child learns to become submissive, learns to develop this adaptive self to survive and navigate childhood, to survive and navigate a controlling person. The thing about having a very controlling, highly narcissistic mother or father is that there is this interplay of anger and resentment towards them because they don't want you to individuate. They want to be in control of you. Because that's the thing, highly narcissistic people generally have very low self-esteem, and they want to self-regulate and feel better about themselves by controlling others. So if you don't want to be controlled and you show yourself to be a sovereign being who has his or her own thoughts and his or her own mind, that can result in a cut in the relationship and punishment for the child. And so the child learns to push that side of themselves down or keep it hidden, and to the point where, sadly, as an adult, they forget the side of them. They forget the side that they had to keep hidden in order to survive a chaotic childhood. The problem is when there's a lot of anger from the past, and the anger can come up, and then the person is telling themselves, no, can't be angry, shove it back down, carry on with your day, stick your head in the sand, keep sailing down the river of denial. Or keep projecting it onto others. And this can become a serious problem in any healthy relationship, be it a friendship or a romantic relationship. Because when you're in a relationship with someone, be it platonic or romantic, there is a need to be authentic and to express oneself. However, for someone who is so scared by anger, it means that sometimes when someone is just quite simply being assertive, the other experiences that as being attacked. And for this person, this can be a trigger for them to just suddenly start thinking the past is happening again, and that the person in front of them is no longer that person, but instead has become a figure from their past. Angry mum, angry dad. And then this person is reacting as if it's mum talking or angry dad talking. So the quiet borderline type does struggle with anger, their own anger, because they are likely caught up in their own inner conflict of anger towards the parent versus guilt towards leaving them. It's a hard place to be in when you feel angry towards a parent for them not letting you individuate, anger at them for how they treated you all your life, and then guilt for wanting to break relationship, guilt for leaving them. It's a form of arrested development, having BPD. It's like this person, although they're an adult and able to function in the world, they're also stuck quite young. So often they will regress to acting like a child. And the more that this has been going on for, it becomes habitual. And they end up dating people who enable this behavior. And this is the pain of dating someone with BPD, when they get so easily triggered sometimes that they get so upset, whether this is a habit, because my nephews are very good at this, my young nephews, that to take the heat off them as a diversion technique, they're very good at bringing on the tears because it looks so cute and so vulnerable. It's hard not to stay angry at this crying child, but rest assured that this is a tactic, because as soon as they get what they want, suddenly the tears go away and they're all smiles. It's a bit like that dating someone with BPD. Okay, it's this aspect of them that is psychologically they're stuck. They're unable to mature their defenses and their ways of dealing with challenging situations. And the longer that they keep being this way, and people are enabling them, allowing them to keep being this way, and nothing happens, so there's no consequence to this behavior, the longer they will keep being like this, and it becomes more and more ingrained. So a healthy relationship is with someone who is willing to challenge the partner out of love and in a healthy way. But even this kind of person who objectively is quite good and ideal for someone who needs to break bad habits, the loving person who just wants to love their quiet borderline partner and say that it's okay, you are not a bad person, even this is going to be challenging for the quiet borderline type, because in BPD there is this wanting to be seen as good. It's the child that just, the inner child within the quiet borderline type who thinks they're a bad kid. They believe the words of the controlling, abusive parent, and they want to be seen as good. They've got very low self-esteem and just want to be seen as good, perhaps even perfect. And that means that, hey, no, I can't be angry because that's bad. Or I can't mess up because that's bad. Or I can't get it wrong, that's bad. It's very, very hard to date someone who gets so easily triggered that they cut you off in your talk. When you talk, it feels like that they are controlling how the conversation goes. It feels like their needs are more important than yours. And you will not believe how many clients I hear who have this beautiful, lovely, seemingly peaceful yoga teacher partner who is on a purity campaign, and everything needs to be perfect and they need to be pure, and they're very, very, very controlling, and they want their needs met. However, when it comes to their partner's needs, they just ridicule their needs, saying, no, your needs are wrong. You're wrong for having those needs, that they don't matter. And so the partners who are dating quiet BPD types have this dynamic of feeling compassion and love for their partner, but also just not feeling seen and heard in the relationship. And their needs aren't important, and they learn to just be quiet and keep their mouth shut. But then it's only natural to get angry. It's only natural to want to challenge your partner if they are treating you in a certain way. It's only natural to want to call out your partner if they are disrespecting you. And yet the borderline partner does not want to see that they make mistakes. It challenges them to see that they've hurt someone or they've done something wrong. And so they react to that so strongly that in itself becomes a way to shut up the partner and to stop the arguments. Now, the mature way to deal with this, in my opinion, for the borderline partner is to learn to sit with the pain of realizing that you messed up. Learn to sit with anger and to feel it in your body. To do reality checks as much as possible, because reality checks, by taking a time out, breathe a few breaths and question, is this really happening, or is the past happening and I'm reacting to the past? You can choose your thoughts just like you choose your clothes in the morning. You just need to muster up all that willpower to choose where you want to focus your thoughts and which emotions you want to dwell in. It all comes down to you. Both people, all people, everyone watching this, your feelings and your thoughts are your own responsibility. Your actions are your own responsibility. A healthy relationship is when two people can be honest about each other's projections, and even though you may make mistakes and you know it's normal, you're human, to be willing to address it and come from a loving place to help each other see themselves, to work on themselves and the relationship. If your partner is just not even there yet, if your partner really struggles with taking responsibility for their actions, for example, you have a partner who just keeps blaming you every time they've done something wrong. It's because of you, you made me do this, or you made me feel this way. That's not going to change overnight, okay? Let me tell you, as someone who works in the field of change, not many people want to change. Those who change are those who are motivated to do so, and it comes from within. They're not doing it to please other people. It is this drive, this determination that they wake up in the morning and they are driven to change. They are driven to keep going ahead with this new path, this new habit, whatever it is. If it was easy to change, people would just change and I wouldn't have any clients. How driven is your partner to change? Are you just enabling the partner when they say they're going to change and you stay in relationship with them and nothing happens? The act of change, the process of applying change into your life and to see results through consistent effort, it's a very long process. You need to want to make the change, to be organized and have a plan of action, to be executing that action and stick to it. All of these stages have their own obstacles, and many people fail. Many people just give up. And often people who self-sabotage, I made a video on this earlier about trauma and the ability to self-sabotage. You find that people with BPD, they are victim to their own impulses, whims and urges. Now this is partly to do with the prefrontal cortex not getting activated, and this regulates impulsivity. So people with BPD, brain studies do show that the prefrontal cortex isn't really getting activated when it should, which means that they have difficulties regulating their emotions and they have difficulty doing reality checks, and they get pulled by every women impulse. So this means that it's really hard to stick to a plan of action which requires change, because as I've mentioned in many videos, the ego hates change so much. It requires a very driven, focused person who is willing to look within and to sit with the icky feelings, the horrible feelings of knowing that you've messed up, of knowing that there is this selfish, cruel, narcissistic side to you. To not run away from that, because when you do, you just end up seeing in others. That's how the universe works. If you refuse to see any sort of issue with yourself, you will find it in other people. Model for your partner what healthy anger is, and if you don't know, learn about it. Think about it as going from passivity and aggressiveness into assertiveness, all right? In the spectrum of anger, whereas your passivity and aggression, We've got healthy assertiveness in the middle. Learn about what assertiveness means. And this is why often people who have issues around holding boundaries, they do tend to be the more passive types, and they draw into their life people who are a bit more aggressive, for example. And this is how it is when we're not balanced. We will seek out people who are often the opposite, and it's perhaps the universe telling us we need to balance ourselves. So if you're a bit more passive, come into the middle, be more assertive. If you tend to lash out and you can be quite violent, you need to work on yourself so you can be assertive and not aggressive. Learning how to say no, putting boundaries in place, and challenging those fearful thoughts that come up when you think about doing so. This is the path I would advise for anyone, regardless of whether it's BPD or not. Model the behavior that you wish to see in a relationship and know what your limits are. If you've had enough, you've had enough, okay? Your body can only take so much. We're not designed to always be in fight or flight, and that can happen when we are living with someone who has BPD. When someone's unpredictable, you're walking on eggshells around them, you will get triggered into a fight or flight because there is that animal brain within you that is sensing danger and you are responding to it. And when you're not giving your body a chance to relax, it's just gonna cause problems later on down the line. It's not healthy and it's not good for you. Be aware if you have a partner that uses the old carrot on the stick tactic. Come back into a relationship with me, or I will do this, I'll do that if you come back into the relationship with me. As I've mentioned, it's really hard to change. And if this person legit wanted to change, they would be doing so anyway. They won't be waiting for you to come back into the relationship to change. Think about it. Someone who is driven to actually want to change will do it themselves. Know your limits. If this is too much for you, if your nervous system is fried and the changes that you are seeing aren't enough because nothing is really changing, the patterns are still there and it's breaking you, leave. It's very hard for people to change, and people with BPD, especially the far down the spectrum, they struggle with change very much. So I guess the question really is, can you accept your partner as they are now if they were not going to change? Assuming that most people don't really change unless they are motivated to, such as by shock, by fear. But generally people don't really like to change. Suffering is a big motivation, but often people forget that and think that I'm a bad person if I leave someone because they're going to be upset that I've left them. That kind of thinking becomes enabling, because who are you to determine what this person should be experiencing? Maybe they need to be experiencing some suffering for them to realize, I need to make a change. Know when enough is enough. Listen to your body. If your body has just had enough of just being in fight or flight and you need a break from it, then honor your body's needs, honor your needs, and understand that most people just don't want to change. Can you accept this person as they are now, or is it just too much? I hope that's been helpful. As always, I want to hear your feedback, your thoughts. If there's other video topics that you'd like for me to talk about, do let me know. My email address is in the video description. All right, I'll leave it there. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.